You've probably heard about the Asian tigers, right? Economies like Taiwan that just exploded onto the world stage, going from deep poverty to incredible wealth in what felt like the blink of an eye. And the story we're always told is that it was all about free market magic. Well, today we're going to dig into a different story, one that's a lot more complicated and honestly a lot more interesting, based on Robert Wade's incredible book, Governing the Market. First off, let's just take a moment to appreciate the scale of what we're talking about. This wasn't just good, steady growth. No, this was a complete radical transformation that basically left economists at the time scratching their heads, trying to figure out what was going on. Okay, now look at this. This is where it gets crazy. In 1962, you have an economy like Taiwan's, ranked down there with countries like Sudan. Just 24 years later, that's barely a single generation, it had rocketed up into the same league as developed European nations. I mean, a leap that massive, that fast, they started calling it a miracle. So the billion-dollar question is, how on earth did they do it? Well, the answer that became the standard, the one you'd find in most textbooks, was super simple: laissez-faire capitalism. The idea was these governments just stepped back, slashed regulations, opened their doors, and let the free market do its thing. It's a really neat, clean story. But is it what actually happened? Yeah. As it turns out, when you actually start looking at what was happening on the ground, that simple story starts to fall apart. The reality was way messier, full of contradictions, and it really confused a lot of the experts. I absolutely love this quote from the book. You have this brilliant economist, a guy who totally believes in the free market story, who goes to Taiwan for a week and basically admits, the more I see, the less any of this makes sense, according to my theories. That's a huge clue that something else was going on under the hood. And this is that something else. This is the core idea of the governed market theory. Now, this is not communism. It's not the government trying to replace the market with central planning. Think of it more like the government is steering the market. It's using its power to guide investment, to protect new industries, and to push the whole economy in a very specific strategic direction. So what does governing the market actually look like? What's the real difference in philosophy here? Let's break it down. And this lays it out perfectly. On one side, you've got the classic hands-off approach. Just trust the market's invisible hand to figure everything out. But on the other side, you have the governed market view. Here, the market is seen as this incredibly powerful engine, for sure, but an engine still needs a driver to steer it where you want to go. And that driver, in this case, was the state. Okay, let's stop talking theory and get really specific. Let's look at Taiwan, because this wasn't just some vague philosophy for them. They had a very real, very powerful set of tools that they used to forge their own economic path. So here it is, the whole toolkit. They didn't just let any company compete. They protected their new, infant industries. They controlled the banks so they could decide who got loans. They relentlessly pushed companies to export and compete globally. They used state-owned companies to lead the way in key sectors. And they didn't just take any foreign money, they carefully guided it to make sure it fit their national strategy. This was not a hands-off approach. This was a playbook for intervention. Want a concrete example? Just look at how they built their textile industry from scratch in the 1950s. The government didn't just nudge the market here. For a while, it pretty much was the market. It blocked all imports, it supplied the factories with the raw cotton, and then it bought up everything they made. And the result? In just 3 years, they were totally self-sufficient. I mean, that's just a stunning success. And they didn't stop with textiles. The government was actively picking winners. They were targeting what they called sunrise industries, higher tech stuff like electronics, things that would push Taiwan up the value chain and make it a real competitor on the world stage. You know what's really fascinating is that this wasn't just about building up new industries. It was also about managing how old ones died out. Instead of just letting an industry collapse overnight, causing massive unemployment and chaos, the government would step in and manage a sunset. They'd help smoothly shift people and money into the new, growing parts of the economy. Now, you might be thinking, how could a government possibly pull all this off? I mean, this level of intervention usually just leads to corruption and total failure. Well, the secret lies in the kind of state they built. And this is the key concept right here, the hard state. A soft state is one that's easily pushed around by lobbyists and powerful business interests. It can't stick to a long-term plan. But a hard state is insulated from all that. It has the autonomy and the power to make difficult decisions for the national good without getting bogged down in politics. So what were the ingredients for Taiwan's hard state? It was a pretty unique historical recipe.
You had a constant military threat that created this intense national unity. You had mass migration from mainland China, which broke the power of the old wealthy elites. You had a super smart bureaucracy filled with engineers, not economists, who were focused on solving practical problems. And let's be clear, any groups that might have opposed these plans, like labor unions, were suppressed.
And if you need one number, just one stat to show you how dominant the state was, look at this. In 1952, in those critical early days, more than half, 56% of all manufacturing production came from companies owned by the state. This wasn't a government tinkering around the edges. It was the main driver of the entire industrial economy. Okay, so what's the big takeaway from all this? Is there one simple lesson we can learn from the East Asian miracle? Well, the answer seems to be a clear no. It's more complicated than that. But what it does show us is that there isn't just one single path to becoming a rich country. The standard prescription we always hear is liberalize, privatize, deregulate. Just get the government out of the way. But the story of the Asian tigers gives us this powerful alternative lesson. Build a strong, capable state. Use it to steer investment into key areas, and then push those industries to become the best in the world. And that leaves us with this huge, fascinating question for today. Was this governed market model just a fluke, a product of a very specific time and place with its Cold War politics and unique social conditions? Or could the principles of a smart, capable developmental state still be a recipe for success in the 21st century? That's definitely something to think about.